Welcome to our panel, Becoming Digitally Sovereign. To begin with, I guess the question is, what is digital sovereignty and why is it important?
Do you guys want to come closer so you can hear better?
I think they're trying to stay in the shade.
Oh.
But there is shade up here, too.
There is shade.
That's okay.
There is shade. So what is digital sovereignty? And what is sovereignty? I mean, sovereignty is essentially becoming free of external control, like the reclaiming your power. Digital sovereignty is your data, your connections, your communications, finding a way to free them from unwanted external control, not being locked into a platform. It's essentially controlling what you share, with who you share, and how you share it, and finding structures and platforms to do it. In my eyes, at least, that's digital sovereignty. If anyone else would like to add to that.
Yeah, for me, what comes up, my name is Blaze, by the way. Hi, everybody. What comes up for me is digital sovereignty seems to be permaculture design for digital infrastructure. So it's the idea of creating resilience through decentralized application and protocols that have shared ways of being able to communicate between each other rather than using different platforms kind of thing. But these are all... I also think that it matters because of local stewardship in the same way that permaculture looks at food sovereignty and land sovereignty as local stewards who are taking care of that. I feel the same can be applied with community level digital infrastructure, where we have local stewards who are in direct management of our community's data and how it's shared. And so just taking permaculture design and applying it to digital infrastructure, I feel is a great way to grasp our own digital sovereignty.
And I think you guys covered digital sovereignty really well. Is the next thing kind of like why it matters?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can talk about that a little bit. So my name is Gaia. I went to school for computer science, and for 10 years of my life after that, I worked for corporate America writing apps and code. So I'm pretty familiar with how the sausage is made. More recently, I've gotten involved in activism and community building. And one of the things that I offer to my community is some digital security workshops. And so the reason that is so important is our privacy matters. You know, if you're doing something illegal or that might become illegal in the future, certainly you want privacy, but just to me on principle, this idea of sovereignty, people not being able to read what you consider private, you being in control of your own data and not corporate America and not the federal government being able to read it, is really critical. And in community building and activism work, to me it just is a really natural fit to try to keep those powers as far away from our communication as possible. And our communication is largely digital.
And that is essentially why it matters. We need to preserve it. All of this digital evolution is really new for us. A lot of us, I don't know, I'm 33, so I grew up with the internet. Email was a thing when I was born. And a lot of newer people, younger people younger than me, Facebook is a thing when they incarnated. And so they don't understand what it's like before everything was digital, and just automatically, oh my god, I get this dopamine rush from sharing all of this personal, intimate stuff online, and they just don't necessarily know the alternative. And I'm not saying that's bad. It's just they don't have the They don't have the framework. They don't know there's another way. And we were given these digital platforms and we're offered them for free. They're convenient. They're easy. You plug in. All you have to do is surrender all of your rights and sign those 20 pages of terms and conditions that are changing every 6 months that you didn't read. And why it matters is another reason why it matters, we put so much of our lives online on other people's systems, on other people's servers where we've agreed to those conditions, and boom, one day the terms change. You don't know that they changed, and you've now violated the terms, and you're locked out of your account. You're deplatformed. You've lost your social network because all you ever did was exchange your Instagram with that person, but now Meta has banned you for life, and you don't even know what you did wrong. It would be nice in some ways if we could just move away from technology, but I see a solar punk future for us, ideally. I want us to live in harmony with technology. And in order for us to do that, we need to gradually become more technologically literate and find people around us that understand technology, people that we trust, consciously cultivate those networks rather than trading everything for the convenience of corporate America, because at that point you don't even know what you've lost. And we're short on time, so I'll leave it at that for now.
For me, it matters most because currently it's unsustainable, and regenerative principles are very important to me. And right now there's a lot of extraction, a lot of siphoning, and it's very imperial. If you think of our digital presence as actual land, if you will, space, let's call it space. So there's space, and we are being curtailed to limited access to only a certain amount of space that's not owned to us. Like, we don't own it. So all of our information about our land, about our relationships between each other, it's being extracted out of our local relationships into a global corporation, and then being used for different purposes from there. It's building these data centers in rural areas and completely decimating the environment around it and the communities around it. And it's creating a future where everything is all of the authority, all of the power and infrastructure is concentrated within a few people's hands globally. And as we see with every other industry, that's not, we're looking for circular economies and regenerative principles. We're looking to keep things within our bioregion. And if we are outsourcing our own infrastructure outside of us, then that is something that
it's going
doesn't
to a data
feed back.
center
Yeah.
in North Carolina.
Yeah,
from
or
here.
a lot of them happening in Texas and Tennessee. But
Areas with less good environmental protection.
exactly.
Frankly.
And these are all regenerative principles that I think are really important, that we seem to apply to all the rest of our societal infrastructure, but not to our digital infrastructure. So that's why I think it's really important.
Oh, okay.
Which I guess is a great leeway to our current state of affairs.
Yeah, I mean, we're sort of talking about it, right? Like, we're wreaking havoc on the environment with these data centers, just like churning out, copies of other people's creativity. If you've been using, like Meta products for a long time, they can really effectively create a digital clone of you, both in voice and in just like sort of how you speak via text. I think I'm more excited to talk about what's next, so I'll move it on. Yeah.
And I'll go from there, especially with the advent of AI models, which we're we've completely welcomed into our lives because, oh, ChatGPT, it's making everything so much easier. Some people are opening it up so that it can read their calendar, their emails. Google's had it so that it's completely integrated with the new Android platform. It has. You already have machine learning in your Google Photos and possibly your iCloud. It has access into many of your intimate memories, which are already geotagged, and facial recognition is there. We want to talk about building a digital clone of people. How about just building a model of this is the way this person thinks. This is how they're probably going to act. This is who they're in contact with. This is who they trust. Google and Apple have been pushing iMessage and Google Messages, which are great. I just, as a paranoid tech individual, I'm Peter, by the way. I work in tech. I shy away from both of them. Signal fan over here. What they don't tell you about WhatsApp, yes, everything is end-to-end encrypted. They use Signal's Whisper protocol for encryption. But, sorry, this is Google Messages, not WhatsApp. They're also they're collecting metadata about who you're texting, when you're texting, who you're calling. Every time you send one of those encrypted text messages, it phones home to Google and gives that information about who it is, hashed message of what it is. So it's like they're still collecting tons of information that you don't necessarily want collected. God forbid you want to do anything that the current regime doesn't like. It's really easy for them to see who's important to you. And I'm just going to throw it out there why it matters. There's a company out there called Palantir. For any Tolkien fans, Palantir was what Saruman would use to communicate with Sauron, that evil magic ball, magic orb. Palantir has partnerships with Meta, I believe Google, and Apple, and a few other big tech companies. You'll definitely want to fact check it. But essentially, they parse a lot of that information and then send it to the government. They're a government contractor, essentially. This is about, they call it searching for threats. Anyone who could potentially be involved in any sort of terrorist activity or anything else. That's how they package it in order to infringe upon your rights. But I say this because of the current geopolitical landscape and shifting terms and conditions. It's getting scary out there. The water's getting choppy, and we want to be careful about who we're hanging with, what we're talking about,
and where we're talking about it.
And we don't want to be products anymore. That's why we have all these free convenient services, and it's scary. It's scary how much we've given away for the sake of convenience.
Yeah, it's a couple more tidbits about Palantir. They are contractors with the Israeli and U.S. government, and one of their clients is also Wendy's. They have a lot of regular business clients that are integrating their AI into their everyday POS systems, their social media, things like that. So it's not just the big military stuff. They're infiltrating into every single aspect of our digital world. There's also a Wendy's is one of their clients. So they integrate all of their AI stuff into Wendy's now.
Now they know what Wendy's food you like to eat.
Yeah. But that's just an example of how they're going into the most basic things of our everyday lives. And there's a court order to OpenAI, ChatGPT, that they have to keep records of all of their data specifically for the Wall Street Journal. Yeah. So that's ordered by a judge that they have to keep all your data and share it with a media corporation. So just these are the current states that we're in, and that's why it's so important for us to realize that, hey, like we don't have to either run and be tech adverse or rely on Google. There's a third option of us owning it all of ourselves, and there are open source alternatives, and so that's the positive current state. Just after I talk about NSA siphoning, actually, real quick, because AI is allowing for a lot more NSA siphoning of your data as well through Apple, Mac, ChatGPT, all these models, because it's a capture point for the data. Like it has to go through the AI, and in that process of putting it into the AI to train it, they're just saving it. And so they're telling us that it's for the purpose of building AI, and that's going to benefit us, but there's a lot more to it. So some positive things that are happening though, because we live in a world of yin and yang, and so there's a lot. What inspires me from the open source tech community. Open source tech is software that is available for anyone to read. They can copy it, modify it, and use it within their own systems. So there are payment processor apps, there are chat apps, there are social media apps, all these things that are completely open source where
And you can look at the code. I mean, some people you trust, maybe you can look at the code, you can look through it, and you can see, like, is this phoning home at any point? Is this contacting external servers? Like, what is it doing? Like, we can be more assured when the source code is open to us that it is secure. There's other ways to test that too, like putting it in a little box and seeing what it tries to connect to. But like, that's one of the things that I love about open source too. But it's also just democratic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's transparent, and yeah, it's customizable too to communities. So if you want a very specific,
Yeah. 3 minutes left.
We have 3 minutes left.
I know.
Oh my
So I
goodness.
think the thing that like I just like really want to ask is, who here has heard of Signal? Okay, amazing. Do you use it?
We're going to 5:30.
We're going to 5:30?
Yeah.
Baby, never mind. We'll get to that later, but I'm so excited to talk about Signal in a little bit. So I was like, if we only have 30 minutes, I really need to talk about it.
We have 30 more minutes, everybody.
Great.
We have until someone else comes
That's
and
true.
tries to take over the solar stage, and then we'll deal with that when it comes. Well, we'll gladly give it over.
Yeah. Sorry to interrupt, man.
What? No.
Okay. Well, I
Signal.
mean, I could start talking about Signal now.
Yeah.
Oh, sick. Okay.
This part is, where do we want to go?
Where do we want to go? And like, so yeah, I moderate like a really large activist community. We organize on Signal. Basically, within digital security, there's like this tension between like usability and security, and that's always going to be there. Like, AI is really convenient, and like a lot of the tools that are more secure kind of suck. Signal to me is in this really sweet spot where it's it's really easy to use. It just feels like any other chat app, and like it is secure. The background on it is when WhatsApp was sold to Facebook, the people who created WhatsApp used that money to create the Signal Foundation. It's a nonprofit. Like, how many apps on your phone do you use regularly that are owned by a nonprofit? Like, not many, but for me, Signal is one I use every day. And they used the money from the sale of WhatsApp to a corporation to create this digital nonprofit focused on our security. And that's why I trust Signal. And let's see, I could just talk a little about socializing the use of it. When somebody messages me on, a Meta product or Google or even plain text, I always ask like, hey, are you on Signal? Could we move this to Signal? And sometimes that is the impetus for them getting on Signal. In my activism groups, this isn't live streamed. It's some ICE watch verification work is one of the things we do, so it's like pretty sensitive. Like, it's really critical that everybody in the network has a secure phone. And so like just using Signal isn't enough because it's end-to-end encrypted, but if one of those ends is compromised, your entire Signal chat is compromised. So if somebody like, if a federal agent gets a hold of a unlocked phone, like they can see everything that's in Signal. And so using Signal is good and important and like easy most critically, like you're not sacrificing that usability. However, and you sort of alluded to this earlier, it's like also protecting, digital security is here to protect like other people in our networks. And so making sure we have good digital hygiene isn't just for us, it's for other people in our Signal groups and in our lives.
I would love to talk more about Signal. I love Signal. But what I want to talk about is where we want to go. And Signal is probably close to where we want to go. But there is one negative aspect to Signal right now, and that's centralized servers. When the Signal network goes down, you can't send messages, you can't send texts, which is the same for any other web outage. I'm just leading this to paint a broader picture of where we want to go, where I want to go. Some people might have different ideas. Encryption becomes the norm. Decentralization becomes the norm. Self-healing fractal networks that can communicate with each other and build networks of trust, that becomes the norm. Systems with no single point of failure, where trust and cooperation are key. Essentially what we're trying to do here on the ground level, we're trying to do on the meta, the real meta, information level, and take back the word meta so people don't think about corporate America. That type of vision, there are emerging technologies for it. Right now, we're going to need Signal in order to get us there, and Signal is probably going to get to the point where it overcomes that central point of failure.
And if you're not on Signal, you can find me after this. I'll help you download and install it and show you how to use it.
Yeah, you have some new tech allies here. Part of this idea is, look, tech is complicated. But in most of our groups, we have people that are more technologically proficient. So it's about like building those relationships, becoming friends with them so that they could be like, oh, you don't have a backup strategy? You don't have password management? Let's help you out because I don't want to see you get hacked. And oh, by the way, here's this project I'm working on and I trust you and I think you'd be a great part of it. Like this is just about normalizing energy exchange and finding ways to build our own network rather than being reliant on Facebook or even our cell phone numbers right now. Those are controlled by telecom communication companies, AT&T, Verizon. So much of our life is controlled by that. As I started this is about taking back control. In this future I see, we've reclaimed it.
Yeah, even emails require domain names, which is the DNS system, which is permissionful. So even if you have email going on your own servers, if you're using a domain that can, that can interact with like Google addresses and stuff like that, then you're still asking for permission to send those emails back and forth. So there is a lot of power in coming out of that system and going to Signal and more messaging type apps that aren't hosted by DNS protocols. And for me, what I'm looking forward to in the future is also a shout out to the Wabanaki federalization of our infrastructure. Rather than having a central point or centralized corporations and that kind of thing, if we think of it as a federalization of creating different local infrastructure, digital infrastructure points, that we have communities that are organizing around that and sharing that and stewarding it together, then we can create federations between each other that then interact as independent communities that can still, they choose what they want to share with each other and have that empowerment for themselves. And how we can do that is by building up what's called mesh networks. So mesh networks are networks that allow device-to-device communication directly without having to go through a tower or satellite or something like that. Because whenever we go through those other centralized points of communication, we have to ask these corporations for permission to use it. And if we have mesh networks set up, for example, this property, I don't know if it does or not, but with how good the Wi-Fi is all over the property, I'm guessing they have a mesh network here. But say we had a mesh network for this community here where everyone's devices are directly connected to each other and able to send messages just straight from my phone to your phone. And then there's another community that also has a mesh network that is only for their community. Then when you connect those two mesh networks directly together, then you connect these two communities in a safe, secure way where that data can't go anywhere else. So the more mesh networks, and the reason they call them mesh is because when you look at it from like a map view with all the devices on and connected to each other, it creates this mesh, a net. And that's a decentralized protocol that makes it where there's no central point of failure, and it allows for resilience. So if any one device goes down, the message still gets through because there's tons of other devices that it can be sent through to get to its end device. So when we can do this on a scale, on a community scale, it provides our entire community with the digital sovereignty that we've been talking about today. And so that's the future I see, is all these off-grid communities and even urban communities. For people who are looking to divest out of these other forms of communication, we can put mesh network nodes in all the coffee shops, in all the hardware stores, all the small businesses that have been there for decades and will be there for decades. And it allows them to have a more direct relationship with their community and their neighborhood. And it also brings up a future where these local businesses are all internet service provider mediaries, where they can do metered networks on their mesh network, and then you can buy your internet on a meter from your local coffee shop instead of from a big, large internet service provider, things like that. So yeah, there's a lot of individual siphoning of our infrastructure that then gets connected. And that's the future I see that allows us to have good hygiene.
Yeah, I guess maybe I just realized a thing that I wanted to mention, and it is around hygiene. It's just there's so many levels of security, right? And so I think I'm jumping down to there's like, what can we do today? And so one thing you can do today is download Signal. Another thing you can do today is reach out to some of your more tech literate friends. Maybe you're the more tech literate friends. Maybe you're in a group chat. Maybe you're on a Discord, and be like, hey, have we considered how accessible these conversations are to corporate America, or could be? Do we want to consider moving to Matrix, which is a good Discord alternative? Do we want to consider moving to Signal? Even if you don't feel ready to take that jump, start socializing the idea of that. And even further, the mesh networks, this is even deeper down the rabbit hole in a way, but hey, is anyone here interested in exploring this technology? Are you interested in it? Can we explore this technology together? Can we set this up between our two co-ops or something? This is something I'm doing in Somerville, is where it's not working right now because of antenna range, but we're trying to build a mesh network using Meshtastic radios to see if the different co-ops can all talk to each other if the internet goes down. We need to either get more houses online or get more antennas, but we're working on it. It's something we can do today.
Do you need a smartphone to have Signal, or can you just do it if you have a phone number and a MacBook?
The app works from, you can get the app to work on a laptop, but at least my understanding is the laptop version is relatively new, and when I signed up, I did do it on my phone because they needed to verify your phone number. So I can look into that. I don't.
One barrier getting in the way of my work community because there's someone who doesn't have a smartphone.
Yeah.
There is a Signal desktop app And then from there, I think they just text you the confirmation code.
Okay.
If I'm
Great. So it sounds like it's, and for your work, this is someone that can communicate via their laptop, and that's fine. Yeah, because in some of my activism, one of the people has a flip phone, and they're like out on the street, and I'm like, we can't. And so we actually can't talk to them, because
Oh.
yeah, like they won't get a smartphone for some reasons that like I do respect, but it does make the work impractical.
So I have a kind of a setup where I have like a dumb phone that I do a hotspot and then go onto the smartphone. And I also ran into the problem of I wanted to do it just on a laptop, but it kept when I opened up on the app on the laptop, it said scan this QR code. So
Oh yeah.
I had to move my SIM into a smartphone, borrow like my mom's smartphone, move it into there, then download it, and then take the thing out and do this whole thing. So then
Yeah, and they'll never know that you no longer use a smartphone just to get it set up, that initial step required one.
so it was like something
Okay.
like that where I had to use something that's like essentially now is like an iPod. But yeah, I have a question, but I'll just leave it.
Yeah.
I just wanted to offer that.
Yeah.
What's
I wanted to talk a little bit more about like a few other
20
actionable
minutes.
things that
How
are
do
like
we get there?
today actionable, and then I think there is some more like higher level stuff that you two are more focused on around like the networks and like these apps and like the federated approach. But a couple of things I also just wanted to talk about is like what apps do you have on your phone? What do they know? What can they see? I do a quarterly audit of all of the apps on my phone, which is maybe overkill. I don't know. But like, I just check to see like who can see my location, who can see my photos. I refuse to use the Google Photos app because they require that they can see all of your photos, which is bullshit. They don't need to see all of your photos if you want to album share with people, but they do, and they don't need to. And so I refuse to use the Google Photos app, for example, because they want to access all of your photos, and that can be unnecessary. Who can access your microphone and when? So like going through that. And all of this stuff is like really boring. It's like really boring. And so like I recommend like sitting down with some friends, get together, do a co-working like session where you're like, we are gonna clean up our digital security, you know? And if you're doing activism with people, like do it with them probably, because like if you're all talking about the same subjects, you don't want them compromised either. And so I just want to talk about this event I run, and it's called the Security Spa. And I have like a really vibey flyer about it. It looks kind of like a flyer for a spa. And I'm just going to read you the like whatever from it. And then like if any of you want to run a security spa for your community, come talk to me. Like they've been really successful to like just get through something so boring. But this is an action like you can do like tomorrow. Well, Monday, whatever. You know? Okay. So scrub clean your over permissive app settings. Shrink your porous social media exposure. Tone up your muscle memory for locking down your phone. Our treatments and offerings include dedicated time to run through some checklists, chatting in real life about people passionate about security, and body doubling on the drudgery of getting all this stuff done. You will have hands-on tech help if you're feeling stuck, and you can help your friends because I bet you know more than you think. And then I just provide some resources that are like checklists. And like you probably have a few tech literate friends that are going to be like, you know, like people like us who are like, I'm so excited to talk about this. So even if like you're not the one who knows about this stuff, you can be like the person that creates the space to make it happen. Yeah, but these are kind of like you could do this in a week. You could start thinking about this today. And there's just so much else that we need to think about that is like maybe bigger and higher level. And I want to hand that over. Yeah.
Okay, higher level.
Well, I feel like it's your.
Well, first I want to give another practical thing.
Yeah.
If you're on Meta, if you're on Facebook, just go through your privacy settings. Make sure that you don't have public sharing enabled for everything because it's a default for a lot. Also, like back when we were teenagers, we added everyone that sent us requests, or at least I did for a lot of people. I regularly go through like, I don't know this person, I don't know this person, I don't know this person, and remove any of them. Heck, I've even made my friends list private at this point. It's just a lot of this is like reclaiming your power first involves doing an audit of where you've given it away. Like, if you just think about it like, oh no, it's on the internet, fear takes over, anxiety takes over, and you wind up like surrendering and giving up. Don't. We're all there. We got lured into the trap. This is about taking it back. It takes time. On that note, my phone. Graphene OS. There are alternatives out there. It's a variant of Android. So just imagine Android, but with all connections to Google severed. You can still install Google Apps on there in a sandbox profile, and you can also set up storage scopes. So at one point, I did have Google Photos on it, and it only had granular permissions to one file in it, one folder with 0 images. Oh yeah,
That's sick.
it's amazing. My Signal, the profile that hosts Signal has nothing else in there. Like, it's we got to lock down our tech. So like, and this is where the computer literacy thing comes up. Like your laptop, do you have premium? If you're using Windows, do you have premium antivirus on it? Personally, I like Bitdefender. Are there free alternatives out there? Yeah, sure. Am I going to recommend any of them? No. But like, we want this, especially if we're integrating our WhatsApp or our Signal with our computer. If there's any malware on there whatsoever, then you're already exposed. We're only as strong as our weakest link, and all of our technology we use usually is linked together. Um, and so, like, we want to be careful about putting that pirated Adobe Photoshop on there because it probably has some malware in there, and there's a keylogger or a backdoor sending your information to someone who now knows how to get into your accounts. Um, so like, a lot of this is, again, raising our literacy and not being overwhelmed by it, because there are people here in your community who want to help you. Like, we're all in this together. Um, High level overview. The Meshtastic grid is huge. It's great, especially in times of like technological failure. I have a friend in Austin, Texas, who helped build a Meshtastic grid, and when there was a complete power outage, a lot of them have solar panel backups, and so ambulances and EMS services were able to communicate with each other and get where they needed to go, and lives were saved. Um, but like, a lot of this is connecting to your community because no one can do it alone. Um, there's emerging technologies out there. Yes, there's Matrix, but like, right now, focus on the technologies you have. Limit how much you're putting out there. Do just as you would like do a budget, do an audit of your phone's permissions, what apps you have on there, what you're sharing with them, um, as well as like what what accounts you're signed up for. And if like you don't, if you're hosting something, sorry, I'm gonna pivot this real quick. The other big picture with what Blaze was talking about is the area of self-hosting. Right now, everything we have on the web, for the most part, is on someone else's, some other corporation's server. You're on their server, you agree to their terms and conditions, they go bankrupt, you lose your data. There is a movement to self-host. You find someone who hosts servers, or you find a company that has like dedicated servers or VPSs that you trust. We can give you resources if you're interested. Um, Host your own website on there. You can host your own cloud on there if you want, which is a movement a lot of people are doing. This whole Graphene OS thing, I had to find another platform that I trusted to move my photo library to, just because I didn't set up self-hosting to handle a terabyte of photos yet. Um, Found a company I trust, ente.io, E-N-T-E. And everything's end-to-end encrypted. They have multiple failovers. They're an EU company. One of their data centers is actually in a fallout shelter. They're pretty secure. Um, I think it would be cool if everyone thought about like what it looks like to de-Google or de-Apple.
And there's a website. It's just like dgoogle.com or org or something. So you can like look for resources there.
There's also open source map alternatives to Google Maps. The other thing you might want to do is go through your Google privacy settings and see if there's a historical record for all of your searches and all of your locations.
Oh, password managers.
Ooh, for password
Password
managers,
managers.
there's a password manager I love and will recommend above all others. It's called KeyPass. Edward Snowden happens to be a fan of it. I didn't find that out until I found it. There's OnePass, Bitwarden, KeyPass, Apple Keychain, a bunch of other things, but these are all someone else is the custodian of it. It's on someone else's servers. So KeyPass, you download it on your computer or your phone. You create a database with a master password. You have to remember this password. Write it down if you have to. Leave it in a physical safe. Then you store your passwords in a database. It's mobile app friendly. And then you choose to host that database somewhere, that encrypted database, because it encrypts itself, Google Cloud, Apple Cloud, Dropbox, wherever you want. Yeah, your data is still on the cloud, but it's encrypted. And you can access it from multiple locations simultaneously, sync databases. You have to manage it. If you don't want to manage it, ally yourself with someone you really trust to manage it. Because right now, rather than like building our networks, we've all trusted big corporations. And this is about the movement away from big corporations into organized, small scale communities that can team together in order to do the thing.
Do we want to have space for questions too? We have like 10 minutes left.
Okay.
Yeah. But if you have any other, like, I have other stuff I could say, but I'm like,
Yeah, so we're talking about how we get there, right? Sorry, I got so much just listening to you, I forgot what I was going to say.
We had more time.
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, I mean,
Um,
do you want to do?
yeah, I guess so. I did have some other things to say, so I might come back up with that. But does anybody have any questions? Paola?
Yeah, I was wondering if you have any thoughts. Now, a lot of the like newer or newish cars have a lot of the apps in, and when you give permission to speak to like speakerphone in the car, now is it listening? It's listening all the time. Like, what to do about that?
What to do about that?
Get an older car.
Get a car without a computer.
Well, that's impossible, dude.
All right, fine, fine. It's impossible. They all
With
have
that being
them
said,
built
like
in.
smart speakers, smart TVs, like it's so many of these appliances have the same concern of like what level of connectivity do they have? You can still get. I just refuse to use smart speakers, and I fortunately live in co-housing where everybody agrees we're all technologists, you know. So in a household, if technologists is like we don't want a smart speaker, like I think that's a good sign. And even our like thermostat, we like physically unplugged. It had a microphone in it. We physically unplugged the microphone. Like we went in and physically unplugged the microphone from our thermostat. I don't know about cars. I wonder if you could unplug the microphone if you just don't want it. But like,
It really it comes down to trade-offs. If you have a Tesla, sell it if you haven't already. Um, just because the fact that it can like remote shutdown or something like that, this is again like surrendering control. Well, actually, I don't know the details of remote shutdown. I can't speak on that, but there's way too much connectivity there, and you're way too reliant on it. Again, this is about balancing the technological world with the natural world. So look at as far as cars with digital integration, don't fully integrate. If you can, look at other alternatives that aren't fully that are less smart, less intelligent. You're right. You can't get something without a what is it, an EC2 computer these days, unless you're going like 80s diesel Mercedes. And I'm not going to recommend that because of what it does to the environment. Um, we ultimately need better solutions out there. We need manufacturers to understand this desire of ours to not surrender control. Um, I don't have a perfect answer for you right
That's
now.
a hard one,
It's
honestly. It's a good question.
I just wanted to throw out there that I am working with a group out of Austin that is building things like smart TVs and currently working on plans for like smart car type stuff. But we do already make smart TVs that don't siphon any of your data without any of the spyware. So there are groups that are small groups making products like that. You just kind of got to know the right people and do the right research right now because it is so small and niche. And but yeah, there are alternatives. Um, Looking forward to the cars. And I did want to mention one of the things that I thought about was we've talked a lot about technical stuff today, and I did want to bring light to the fact that it is just as much social as it is technical to be able to build this infrastructure.
Yeah,
Um,
community is infrastructure.
Governance, all the governance that we talk about here outside of digital infrastructure also applies to digital infrastructure. We need to have um, like protocols and SOPs for how we communicate with each other, how we share sensitive information, what backup schedules are like, and things like that. Who has keys to access, all those things. So um, I feel like how we get there is practicing that, is really leaning in on the governance, on the bioregional and community governance aspects, and just applying that to the digital infrastructure the same way that you would apply that to building out CSAs. Because we are taking back our ownership of our own resources. They are just digital resources rather than natural resources. And they do require natural resources. So it, it's great that we have that knowledge that we can use energy efficiently when building out those
Yeah.
infrastructure.
And you had a question?
Oh, mine is just as someone who's probably pretty plugged into the matrix with my Google Pixel and my Google Chromebook. Like, is a digital sovereignty spot possible for me? Do I need to before I'm like ready to upgrade to something?
Yeah, there's still a lot you can do with that. I mean, there can be as simple like right now, like if you are going into some sort of like sensitive situation, knowing how to quickly lock down your phone. So like, you know, if somebody gets your phone, they can't immediately like see everything on it then, you know, they just have to get a subpoena and talk to Google. Like there's still stuff you can do. And like I understand like it sounds like your infrastructure just is Google and
Yeah,
you
like
know,
somebody goes Apple, same thing, right?
yeah, Apple has historically been better.
Yeah.
Certainly when Steve Jobs was alive, Apple was much better. That's since Tim Cook's been in charge, less so. But yeah, you can do that, and also you can just like help your friends get there, you know. Also, but if you guys have any ideas around like this specific situation, I would love to hear them.
Yeah, to me, it's a lot like prepping. It's the same idea where you don't just build all of your underground shelter and all your canning and everything at once. Like you have these steps that it takes to prepare for those, and I feel like it's the same thing where um, back up whatever data you have on the big platforms onto a local device, and then that gets you ready to then delete that account whenever you're ready, you know, because you have all that data ready to then move to a different open source platform kind of thing. So just getting familiar with those types of practices is a really good start, and you don't need to have anything installed to start taking those principles and applying them.
one thing you could look into with your Chromebook. Do you know if dual boot is possible in Chromebooks?
I don't know.
Okay,
Yeah.
I've never owned a Chromebook. On a lot of them, though, dual boot is possible. You would need one of your technology friends to help you
So
out.
dual boot is where you will have your Chrome instance with your account and like it's running this Chrome, and then you would have another operating system.
Yeah.
Like Linux, I assume is what you're going to
Like
suggest.
Ubuntu, I would recommend, or
It's
Linux
really
Mint.
beginner friendly, running. What's really nice about that is it like eases the transition. Like if you're really just trying to get something done, you don't want to figure out how to do it, use Chrome. but like you can start to learn like what's easy and what's hard about something like Linux.
And I mentioned Linux just because as part of this, like Windows and Apple are two of our overlords. So I personally like Linux, which is a scary term for a lot of people, but it does power most of the web infrastructure, and your Android phone is a variant of Linux. You just probably didn't realize it. Um, there's a lot of them out there that are open source and completely free to use. You're not locked into some sort of expensive ecosystem with built-in obsolescence, and the terms and conditions are minimal if there are any. The cool thing, some of these open source licenses are like, if you're going to use our code and modify it later for money, just like make sure to give us credit. Or if you're going to use this code, you can never charge a single penny for it ever. It is free for use forever. The Linux world is really cool. It forces you to become more like technologically independent, but also for like the greater conversation of what we're having. When it comes to compromises, I was speaking before about like hackers and malicious ones. You've also got, at this point, it's not a conspiracy anymore. You've got like NSA backdoors built into Microsoft. What's in Mac? I can't say, but on a lot of these services that are given to people that we're paying licenses for, big government and certain three-letter agencies, if they're looking for you, they can get information on you really easily. And something like Linux, Ubuntu's super beginner friendly again. It's a lot more secure. It's a lot more difficult to hack. Why is it difficult to hack? Because most of the people writing malware are writing it for Windows and Mac users. They're going where there's an active audience, where it's more likely for them to get it. And like, yo, be a Linux, be a rebel, like, be a Linux user. To that, just because we're running low on time, and I do want to offer a time for a couple more questions. To you, future viewer looking through this screen, go to portal.permatours.org, where we're going to be providing more information if you want to be kept up to date with how you can help build this better future. All right, any more questions?
I wanted to actually say one thing on the Linux thing because I'm really excited about Linux. Linux, and Ubuntu is great. Ubuntu is awesome. There's more resources to help you learn about Linux with Ubuntu than any other system. That being said, for a lot of people who are coming from Windows, Mint, MINT, is a type of Linux operating system that is it makes the transition with as least dissonance as possible. Like, it's a very familiar interface for you. So I would suggest that for anyone who's Windows users and think that they might be intimidated by learning a whole new operating system. It'll be very familiar for you. And yeah, just want to emphasize the backdoors on Windows, and now with Apple trying to like take a lead on AI, same thing with Apple. So
Yeah, we don't know of specific ones with Apple, but it seems inevitable.
As a current.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, you've been so patient.
I just wanted to know, so like when you're talking about mesh networks, device to device, is that sort of like airdrop,
Sorry, say it again.
Large scale airdrop, essentially.
Yeah,
Device,
but AirDrop is a good example of device to device.
that's like a one-on-one. Instead, imagine a community where like an entire river valley or eventually an entire bioregion has its own like individual network
Or city.
or city. Easily a city, but you got to overcome concrete and other technological limitations. Towers are your friend.
so what, when it comes to something like, I know it wasn't really mentioned, but VPNs, did you hear about that? Is that like a good thing to go for?
Oh yeah, but be careful. I would recommend Mulvad, but NordVPN is nice too. I like it. I like the ones that advertise and are audited that they don't keep logs. Personally, it's a decent thing. Um, we don't like logs when it comes to VPNs. The other thing for anyone who's inspired to do anything that could be viewed as heroic, um, is on the internet, true anonymity is impossible. All we have are various layers of obfuscation to cover our trail and make it more and more difficult for things to be traced back to us. So we want to be careful. And like ultimately when it comes to privacy and security, it's not about your technology, it's about your state of mind. It's about operational security, who you talk to, who you bring into the fold, like how public you are with your private life. These are all like important things. And a lot of times it's not an information leak or a virus, it's you let the wrong person into your organization. You trusted someone you shouldn't have. And I mean, I won't go further into that in this talk. We can talk more about that later if anyone's
I'm just going
interested.
to quickly say that a VPN is a tool. So like all of our computers kind of have like a unique like set of numbers that sort of can identify like where we're coming from, and a VPN helps you obfuscate like where you're coming from. And some people like will make like layers of VPN to try to like be real sneaky, but it's still just all obfuscation.
And with that being said, there are malicious actors out there who have the compute power and the ability, the technical expertise to kind of suss through some VPNs sometimes. It really depends, but for that reason, because it's just obfuscation. So if you can navigate that obfuscation, then you can find them or find you. So I don't personally rely on VPNs, and to where I think that, okay, I'm automatically secure if I have a VPN running. I just see it as an extra layer of that
It's an obfuscuse word.
yeah.
Can I use you had said there was something called
Bitwarden, maybe?
Oh, Bitwarden is it's a password manager out there. I really recommend KeePass. I recommend that above anything else. But
Only as secure as how you sync if people sync it to their unsecured.
say that again.
It's only as secure. KeyPass is only as secured
Yeah.
as the method they use to sync it.
Exactly. Oh, and you weren't here earlier, so you know. Yeah.
You already knew.
Yeah.
Yeah, I work in cybersecurity.
Yeah.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah. We were saying that you're.
Your conversation than what I do.
Oh, yeah. You're only as strong as your weakest device, so you want to make sure everything is secure. I guess if you're not there, I mean, even at that point, like using Bitwarden or OnePass and like having it on a device that's not secure, like it's still easy for a backdoor to get into it, and for everything to be compromised. I still recommend KeePass, but only if you've like trust yourself when it comes to computers and you don't want to lose all of your passwords.
Yeah, I use 1Password. You can choose where you upload it. It gets uploaded in an encrypted way. Mine goes to a Dropbox. So it's similar. It costs money. I think KeyPass is open source and
Open
1Pass
source and
is
free.
not. So like, yeah, I don't have the capacity. Like when I left tech a couple years ago, I'm like, I want to stare at screens as little as possible, and I became a gardener, and I still care about digital security, but like, props to those who have the capacity. Thank you both.
Scary times. Scary
Yeah.
times. It's
A
important.
big question we probably already went over is just how to reach people. Because I don't trust mobile networks or phones or like mail. I don't trust the mail. The mail scam.
Do you have a local community?
What people?
Do you have a local community?
Yes, and I work hard on the local community.
So part of the movement we're talking about is within our local communities and networks of trust, some of us become the digital stewards, so that we can build decentralized, encrypted communication networks between each other, and then gradually build alliances with these other nodes, or networks, or federated networks, or cyber tribes, if you will. Um, that's the movement I'm trying to push. Like, start with a signal group with people you trust. Decentralized encrypted networks, that's our key. And essentially what we're doing here, where we're bringing all these different eco communities and eco villages together. That's why we wanted to add this digital aspect to it, so that we can like
Yeah.
help organize
And I
and
just
regulate.
also want to say like props to you guys for coming when we're so unplugged to come here and sit and think about the
Yeah.
digital world.
Thank you.
Like holy heck, like I don't want to be thinking about it, but it's so important, and I'm glad you're here. And I moderate a large signal group, and so as activism. So also that's a thing you want to talk about, like moderating, using signal in a way that doesn't drive everybody in your group fucking crazy. That's a thing I can like one-on-one talk about.
But then if that one person or half of them, if they aren't coached, they just share, they just
Yes.
sync that with Facebook and their phones. And so
Yes.
all of us and all of our things are.
And that's why if you're in a high trust signal group, you need to train the people in your signal group. And I have some training programs I've run that are pretty effective. I'm happy to talk about them after with you.
And to add to that, what the secret societies did is the outer circle and the inner circle. You have to be initiated from the outer circle into the inner circle. Hey, here's this cool group, and this is where you do the public outdoorsy activities, and you just see how these people do, who they bring to your meetings, what they post on social media, and then after a certain point, after trust is established, because we're way too permissive and trusting as a society right now, and security is completely reliant upon trust. Okay, maybe we're not. All right.
That's like more philosophical. We don't need to go here in this work.
All right. All right. All right.
But like, it's true that if you just like let someone unvetted into a signal group, that's
And then they
your,
post it on social
that's
media.
your leak. Yeah, you know, totally. So, okay, this is our time.
Did you have another question?
Okay, great.
So if it's like if I'm using Signal on a Wi-Fi network, is that a no good?
No, that's totally fine.
That's fine.
It's end-to-end encrypted. So end-to-end encryption means that it's unreadable, entirely in transit, and at rest on the device on each end is when that can be read. And so securing those ends is very critical with end-to-end encryption. But the beautiful thing is that in transit, yeah, it's encrypted. It's good, baby.
And if you are going to do a signal group, you might want to have a policy of expiring messages after a week, 2 weeks, something like that, just in case someone does get compromised
It
in
really
the future.
like lowers the surface area. Yeah, that's a,
So that was a look underneath the glacier. Because it's, I forgot the percentage, but an insanely high percentage, like 90% of data being transferred over internet is actually like private by military corporations, that kind of thing. So the amount of data that we're transferring between each other is very small for the overall internet world. And what we're talking about is building up for ourselves what those other secretive organizations already have for themselves. So it's just providing for ourselves what others already have to them, and just distributing that access in an equitable way.
Closing message for all of you. Because they didn't give us the technology with an instruction manual. This one is channeled information. I like to think of the world beyond the screen as something like going down into the mines for a resource or going underwater for a resource. When you go through that screen, go there for a reason. What is your intention? Do not go beyond that digital screen into the cyber realm just to escape reality. Go there to find something, to bring something, to enrich reality for yourself and other people, because we're here and it's about using it as a tool to make the world a better place. And you know what? If you're going to use it for escape, that's fine. Just remember that's why you're doing it and come back home.
That was like a beautiful prayer.
Yeah, it was.
That was
Thank you for
incredible.
sharing
Was that off the cuff?
Yeah.
I'm glad.